All right, we're joining this in the middle here, no worries. Okay, so what have we done so far? Entry level usually means some experience required. Salaries look like about 53 to 114K. No clearance, don't let that stop you. If you can't code, don't let that stop you either. Certifications matter, right? So this is a big one. There are different schools of thought about if certifications are valuable or not. We're just saying I'm just kind of passing on what the data is saying, right? 83% of job postings listed a certification. Okay, 83%, that's most of it, right? Most common was the CompTIA Security Plus, and as we got into a little bit of management and mid-level, we got into the CISC from ISC2. And certifications have gotten so political, and there's all these conversations about certifications, but I think early on, my belief is still that if you don't have a ton of experience, the cert is a good proxy for your experience, right? So you can kind of demonstrate what you know through your experience and through your certifications. All right, so certifications still matter. Employers still like them. Over 90, this is the sixth bullet here is probably the easiest thing you can do that I see on almost every single cybersecurity job posting, 92% in fact. 92% of job postings ask candidates to be familiar with frameworks, standards, and regulations. Most commonly listed, we saw some HIPAA, PCI, the NIST cyber framework comes up, COVID, ITIL, and then even project management methodology. These things come up so often, and these are things you can start working on immediately. You can start practicing these things. Next time you're working on anything, try to do it from a project management lens, okay? Think about the cybersecurity framework. How can you incorporate some of those things into your home network, okay? I've always said that the way companies secure themselves and the way individuals secure themselves are very similar, right? It's just a matter of scale and budget and things like that, and what they're protecting. But the ideas are pretty much the same thing. We talk about CIA all the time, confidentiality, integrity, availability. Those are the pillars and the goals of security. No matter if you're a single person, an individual, an organization, a country, you still have to maintain those three pillars. All right, let's see what's happening in the chat here. Thanks to Paul, I've grown my cyber network considerably. Awesome. Love to hear that. Nicholas says, Security Plus still has not done me any good over 2 months of looking due to having no professional experience. Yeah, I hear you, Nicholas. This is all these things, none of these are standalone. You're not the only person with Security Plus. That's the thing. We have to think about it in a much more holistic and global perspective. Meaning, what am I doing to stand out a little bit? Am I forming the right connections? Am I reaching out to people? Am I adding value?
Too.
One more time.
So I think that's a good segue too, because Security Plus has been getting a lot of traction, right? And it really falls on the company if they really need a Security Plus or not, right? Mm-hmm. Because Security Plus, when you look at was it Paul Jeremy's diagram, it's not a cybersecurity certification,
right?
It's an InfoSec certification, right? If you look at the DoD, or the DoD exchange for the cybersecurity workforce, that a lot of FedRAMP DoD vendors that you might be applying for require Sec Plus. Look at them and figure out, because you might be applying for a traditional IT job.
Very true, Paul. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's so much bigger than just having the cert or a cert, right? It's really about I always stress branding. What's your professional brand saying, right? And are you kind of dedicated? It's more than passion, right? Because you don't necessarily have to be passionate about your work, but some interest in your work is important. And anything you can do to demonstrate that is going to go a long way. And I still think networking, actually human networking, right, is the biggest hack still. Okay, let's take a look down here. Some good questions in chat. I'm gonna finish up this and then kind of backtrack and do the questions if that's all right with everybody. All right, so these methodologies you can definitely take a look at. These frameworks, they're very accessible, and you can even start implementing them on some level in your own lives. Remote, okay, not really. About 11% of roles we saw offered candidates the ability to work remotely all the time, right? So a lot of these roles were primarily hybrid or on-site full-time. Something to consider if that's important to you. Got soft skills beyond the technical tools, hardware, hacker skills. Many employers want candidates to possess a number of professional skills. What does that look like? Problem solving, research, analysis, written and oral communication, as well as an ability to explain technical concepts to various stakeholders. Right? Can you talk the talk is what this is saying. Can you solve problems beyond just security? If I give you a challenge, what's your problem solving methodology? Because that's what we're doing in security. We're constantly solving problems that exist or problems that we're anticipating will occur. right? That's the entire job. I don't care what your title is. You're either solving an active problem or preventing a problem from happening or investigating a problem that happened, right? Those are the 3 buckets. As people dig into the security and the technical skills, sometimes what happens is we forget of the soft skills and the professional skills. That stuff always matters, right? That stuff is always going to matter. And sometimes it's a differentiator between 2 people of equal technical ability is soft skills. So something to work on beyond. No degree, no problem. This one is probably the most controversial thing in here. Okay. Some people have a personal goal to go to university, get a degree, and I am not stopping you. Right? Far from it. I encourage you, whatever education looks like to you, go ahead and do it. Again, I am just regurgitating the facts here. Less than 24% of jobs required, and the keyword here is required, an undergraduate degree. Other postings we reviewed mention that experience will be considered in lieu of formal education. So if you've got the experience, we may consider that an equivalent of your degree. When a degree was mentioned, however, in those cases, preferred areas of study include computer science, IT, information systems, information assurance, information security, and cybersecurity. So those are the commonly requested degrees. That being said, I know plenty of English majors who've landed in cybersecurity, right? I know plenty of folks who were more traditional science, the bio majors, the chem majors, that have ended up in security. So don't let that, all these things are just kind of what we're seeing out there. None of these are definitive or 100%. It's just what the data is saying and encouraging you to form your thoughts using that. And this one's kind of just a fun throwaway. 0.01% of roles ask candidates to be able to lift upwards of 25 pounds. That's probably a unique, I don't really know what the purpose of that was. Maybe you're racking servers or something, but that was something I thought was kind of fun. So this is kind of the 10 things we saw. This, again, the link here, I will share this link with you all. Here we go. That's our 10,000 cybersecurity job study we looked at. We're going to update that as things come out. If you're interested, there's other content on the site, right? We look at anytime anything is happening in the security education space, we're curious about that. What are the lies cybersecurity professionals told in their resume and why they did it? Project management, we've seen an uptick in project management roles of cybersecurity. So there's some training there, apprenticeships. What else do we have? Number of scholarships, right? Not to promote any particular brands, but just the idea of number of scholarship opportunities and things like that. So the reason we built Access Cyber was, a lot of times people talk about it's expensive to get into security. Boot camps cost a ton. A degree is expensive. What do we do? So if you go over to accesscyber.co, what you'll find is just a massive list of resources we compiled. So free courses, labs, war games, competitions you can engage in, military veterans. I know we've got us, I know we're working closely with some nonprofits that are supporting military veterans. Got some resources for them here that are going to help you kind of transition better and figure out the scaffold to help you build your cyber career. Community is always going to matter, right? What are you doing to be involved in the cybersecurity community? There's a number of Discord servers, Slack channels, subreddits. Wherever you are online, there's a cybersecurity community. It's Discord, if it's Twitter, if it's Slack, wherever you are, there are people out there that are asking the same questions, having the conversations that you want to be a part of. Scholarships, news. This is, again, another one, right? It's so important. I always tell people, you got to stay on top of security. You got to stay on top of what's happening out there, right? It's so important to keep all those things in mind. Career readiness, entry-level opportunities. A couple of organizations do a fantastic job of creating entry-level requirements. And then open source security tools. When you think about building out your lab, or you think about getting started, there's a ton of stuff on GitHub, Security Onion, PFSense, and start kind of articulating what you've been doing. Because you don't have formal professional experience, what have you been doing, right? You want to change the conversation. You want to be able to kind of control that conversation in a way where you can hype on and kind of dig into what you have been doing, what you do know how to do. So that's Access Cyber. We've got a newsletter. Feel free to sign up for that, and you'll hear from me occasionally. What else? I want to go into, let me stop sharing for 1 second. I want to jump back into here for a second. And I'll get to your questions in a second. Okay, so let me share this here. Okay, so this is a slide that I put together for employers, but I think there's some value here for all of you as well. What should employers be doing? Number one, rethink your requirements, right? Swap the word required for preferred. degree or experience. You probably don't need both. If you're hiring, you should probably figure out what's our equivalent, right? What is a degree worth to us? How many years of experience equal a degree where you were in a classroom? Experience, let's swap out the word experience. Let's swap out professional experience for the word experience so that people can articulate what they've been doing. Stop copying and pasting, right? We don't want to copy and this is what I was talking about, where companies are now just copying job postings from other companies to kind of, and we're just creating this mess of an echo chamber. Streamline the interview. We don't need to interview people 6, 7, 8 times to just get a sense of knowing them. Don't just pull random questions from the interwebs, right? Actually have a conversation, engage. And then think about cultivating internal talent. There are folks who work in other roles, maybe auditing roles or management roles that we can maybe transition into cybersecurity roles to solve some of those problems. What else do we have here? For junior entry-level roles, experience should always be 0, right? We don't, the idea of entry-level means you're just getting here. You haven't done this before. Working knowledge, demonstrated ability is more important than actual expertise. Don't use the word rock star. Rock star comes up periodically, and that's a great way to get yourself in trouble with the community. Unless you're building a security themed band, in that case, go ahead and use the word rock star. Volunteering goes a long way. Go to conferences, go to virtual conferences like this. You're here now, so you're already doing some of the recommendations. Volunteer organizations, if you're a student, if you're a veteran, there's a number of organizations that will give you free memberships, discounted memberships, and you get to join the community. If you solve the problem, you get to solve your problem. This is, again, for employers, but the idea is that if you're solving the problem of security hiring in general, you're also going to solve your own pipeline problem. What else we got here? Recruit at conferences. Okay. Let's keep going here. Okay. 10x your security job search. How can you make your job search a little bit more efficient, right? I heard a lot of stories in the chat, people commenting about, I've been doing this, a lot of rejections coming in, hasn't been working well. What do you do? Work on projects, build stuff, harden your own systems. Okay, that goes, and the biggest thing is articulating what you're doing, right? Because a lot of people are doing some great things, they're just not talking about it. And that doesn't, I get it. It takes a little bit of time to kind of get out there and start talking about your stuff. But whatever platform you prefer, make a YouTube video, write a blog, do something. Just get that information out there. And wherever you are, I promise you there's someone who's maybe 2 or 3 steps behind you who that knowledge is going to help. So when you do it, consider that you're doing it for those people. Volunteer, write, blog, create content, share your journey and thoughts on events and breaches, go to conferences, all that good stuff. Connect with other folks. InfoSec, Twitter is it's still a massive depth of InfoSec. Twitter has been greatly exaggerated, still exists, still around. LinkedIn, I mentioned earlier, great community. People are generally, I don't want to speak for everybody, but generally very helpful. Participate in CTFs. There's one I saw earlier, it's called 24/7 CTF, which is pretty geared towards entry-level folks pretty well. Participate in CTF. If you don't have hacker friends, find teammates on Discord. This is why community matters, right? You connect with some folks. Hey, I heard about this CTF. Do you guys want to do it with me? By all means, set that up. Continue learning. There's no such thing as a subject matter in real life, subject matter expert in real life. Right? Everyone is learning. I don't care if you're a CISO or if you're a senior engineer or you're a pen tester and you're doing that for a decade. There's no such thing as an expert. Because expertise is so fleeting, right? Things are changing rapidly. So to remain an expert, you have to kind of continue that learning journey.
Well, let's talk about the projects real quick, because Yusuf have a question on that, right? So he does a lot of projects on his home lab. What's what would be your tried and true way of presenting that and learning in public?
Yeah, I like that. So you're building, you're doing the work. I would say figure out what kind of content creation way you're comfortable with, right? I'm not saying go and become a cybersecurity influencer or like dedicate your life to that, but maybe you're comfortable writing, right? Start up a quick blog, costs $0. You can set up a free blog on a number of sites. LinkedIn, start kind of sharing some of those things. Engage with the companies of whatever tools you're using. Engage with those organizations, right? Talk about them. Connect with people when you see a job description. Connect with people who are hiring, right? Connect with people who are maybe early in their careers, but just a few steps ahead of you, right? So talk to them about things. What should I be studying? Where should I be looking at? If you like writing, do that. If you feel more comfortable on camera, set up a YouTube channel, do something, right? Just kind of get the word out. That's the biggest thing. And Because if it's you versus somebody who is doing those things and not talking about it, I'm probably going to go with you, because I have a little bit more demonstrated. I have a little bit more examples of seeing that, hey, Yusuf is actually doing things. He's out there. He's talking about his work. And self-promotion has been a bad word for a long time, but it doesn't have to be, right? It's important to promote yourself because we all have something to sell, whether we're in business or we're looking for a job. We're selling something, right? We're selling our professional skills to a potential employee. So, and I'm happy to talk to you one-on-one, Yusuf, afterwards. Also, if you connect on LinkedIn. What else do we have here? Benita says, should experienced folks from other industries switching to cyber be considered entry level still? Interesting. They might be experienced in marketing, sales, or project management. Where do those folks fit into? That I really like this question for a number of reasons. Tyler says, great question. There's a space for cybersecurity marketers. There's a space for cybersecurity sales, and increasingly there's a room for cybersecurity project managers. So whatever work you do, you can tack on security at the end of that. You can tack on the word security project manager, security marketers. So number one, if you want to do the same work in this industry, you can transition that way. That's sort of a lateral transition, number one. Secondarily, whatever skills you have to think about now, transferable skills. It's easy when we think about the military to say, this is what I did, and how does this map to, not necessarily easy, but there's a number of frameworks that exist now, as Paul alluded to earlier, about what's the one-to-one of what I did in the military to what I'm doing in the civilian world, right? You have to think about it in a similar way. What did I do in my marketing career? Are there any things here that I can kind of transition over? Because none of that experience goes to waste, right? You're a professional. You've been a professional for many years, right? However long you've been in any industry, you've been working. And throughout that time, you're learning a lot of those soft skills that are transferable, but also there's a room for whatever you're doing. We want you to do it in security, right? Help market some of the security products out there that you actually believe in. Sales engineering, right? If you've got a sales background, and you can learn the technology, sales engineering is a lucrative role. So try to figure out what that transition looks like. A lot of these questions, I think, I'm giving you kind of overview and highlights, but let's connect one-on-one afterwards, and we're happy to kind of dig into it. If you had to choose, Nicholas says, what is the top thing to do to show non-professional experience? As someone that is to take care of a household, trying to hold finances together, I don't have the luxury of time. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. We can't just quit our life and just work on these things full time. That's not practical ever. Really it's about let me think about it this way. I would say then there has to be, number one, an investment in anything we want, right? First off, if we want something, there has to be some kind of investment. Maybe you find 18 minutes a day and you do that every week, right? Can you find 18 minutes a day, Nicholas? specifically 18 minutes a day. If you can do that, even that goes a long way. It doesn't have to be hours, it doesn't have to be, for 5 hours you're on LinkedIn every day. 18 minutes a day. Think of something, share something, post something, share your thoughts on anything that's relevant to the industry. Ask a question, connect with people, go that route. And if you don't have I'm going to say we have to think about, do we not have the time or do we not have the interest sometimes, right? I get it. Time is at a premium. So many things to maintain, but we've got to take a step back and say, do I not have the time or do I not have the interest sometimes? I'm not accusing you of not being interested. I'm just saying something to think about. The best investment of your time is going to be connecting and networking online with folks who are decision makers, who are in a position to hire, and people who are maybe in similar roles as you, or maybe a couple of steps away from you, that have been in the industry for a little bit, not too long, because if you're talking to CISOs and security managers and directors, that feels too far removed. It may be hard to envision yourself in those shoes. But if you're talking to a SOC analyst who's been at their job for maybe 3 or 4 months, they're right there. You're right at the cusp of that. So connect with those folks first. Buffer is a great tool Paul just dropped. It's basically meant to automate your posts, right? So you can automate and schedule your posts ahead of time. I'm sure someone can drop a link. It's called Buffer, might be .io or something. So Nicholas, hopefully that is helpful. Happy to dig into it again. Like I mentioned, happy to have one-on-one conversations with all of you, time permitting. What else do we have? Paul, is anything else in the chat? I'm scrolling, but if you see anything, let me know.
No, I think you nailed it with Benita's question and Nicholas's question. And then, the caveat of a buffer too, if you do have a day where, let's say you've knocked out a bunch of book article or book pages or chapters, let's say Sec Plus, you can go through and you can generate a week's worth of content on buffer and have it scheduled, each day to post on your behalf. I will get the buffer link right now. And it also shares to your Facebook if you have Facebook. But the name of the game right now is, especially as big top Fortune 500 and above are dropping people left and right for layoffs, is learning in public, because you are going to be a now solution for somebody's now problem if you articulate your post correctly.
Absolutely. The other thing I'll say is with Buffer, LinkedIn has now a feature built into it where you can schedule your posts ahead of time. It's a LinkedIn feature, and you can, I think they've rolled it out for everyone, but you can check on LinkedIn and see if it comes up. Any other questions that I can answer while I'm here? I'm going to drop a link to my my LinkedIn here. Do me a favor, send me a connection request. I spend a lot of time just talking to people about cyber careers and cybersecurity in general. So if that stuff is interesting to you, we should definitely stay in touch and chat. So there's that link. I'm already seeing some of these requests pop in. I like it. I'm going to accept some of these in real time. Let's do that. We have a minute, Paul. What do we have here? We've got some notifications. What do I have here? Some notifications here. My network. Tyler Cannon is connected. I'm going to go ahead and ignore, accept. I don't know. Kidding. Just kidding. Alex Moore. I'm going to base it on the message content. Accept. Done, Alex. Anna. Accepting Anna. Robert. Thank you. Okay, great. Anita, there you are. Accept. All right. Okay, great. So want to connect, send me a message, and I'm happy to chat, find some time to connect and have some conversations and figure out what we can do and answer more specific questions. I know in this format, it's hard to kind of have extensive one-on-one conversations, and everyone's case is slightly different. So happy to dig into that and chat. Do me a favor, write about this conversation today, write about this conference. Doesn't have to be this session, any session that really resonated with you. Do me a favor and tag me in it, because I want to see you do it. Right, just a quick. I know the speaker before me was it Ron? It was Ron probably who asked you to kind of just share what you liked. That was in a very kind of niche setting, and that's great. Do it on LinkedIn. Right, share one tidbit, share some speakers, someone who said something that resonated with you. Go ahead and just kind of let's start that kind of idea. Commit to doing that, right? And you're not going to see results for a while, and then you will see results. That's just kind of how it works. It's like going to the gym. If you went to the gym for 3 days and said, I don't have abs yet, I should quit. That's a bad idea. It doesn't work well. That's all I've got, folks. Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you.
We have 12 minutes. So if anybody wants to come off mute, or come off, video mute, you have a CISO here that may or may not be able to help you with your elevator pitch. If anybody wants to run an elevator pitch.
Yeah, I'd love to hear those, please. Got some of those.
You know what? Because I'm going to pick on him. Jeff Fields, I'm calling you out, brother.
Oh, man. Jeff Fields.
I knew he would do that. Just as I'm sending you a connection request, he did it. So,
perfect.
So I did not finish sending it to you.
No worries.
Okay, so can you repeat that, Paul? I just heard my name and that you're picking on me.
Drop your best 90-second elevator pitch for the one of the 3 roles that you're targeting.
What have you known me to speak in less than 90 seconds? Oh my God.
Well, this is the purpose of this, is to challenge yourself.
Okay. So for the roles I'm looking for, I am.
Do me a favor, Jeff. If it's convenient, come off camera for a sec. If it's convenient.
Come off camera or on camera?
Come on camera, rather. Excuse me.
Oh God. I don't have my Brad.
If it's convenient, if it's not, no worries.
I don't have my Brad Pitt filter on, but okay.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Oh, hold on. I got technology and everything. 1 second. Where are we? Sorry, I'm having computer.
No worries.
My computer is buffering at the moment, actually. So
no sweat. And Nadia, did you have a question, or were you volunteering to pitch?
I have a question, actually.
Yeah, please.
Hi, so my name is Nadia Alfatasi. I'm a speaker myself in track 2. It's quite late. I live in Brussels, the New York of Belgium. And because you are a Chief Information Security, and I loved your presentation and really breaking down the real-time facts about the cybersecurity jobs, I'm actually wondering, as a CISO, when it comes to emotional intelligence, so I mean, people are an important asset, but also a challenge, right? In general, what do people do when left alone with their security devices alone? But also, as we're talking here about transitioning into a cybersecurity career, which is very technical, but more and more the leadership role, the cultural aspect, the behavioral aspect, the relationship aspect is becoming very important. And I was just wondering, from your perspective, how fast or how slow is the security industry catching up, right? Especially what we see now with the disruption in AI, a lot of heavy cognitive skills jobs are being outsourced, whether that's the right choice or whether we are doing a lot of thinking or choosing capitalism maybe, but that's another conference.
Right,
And
right.
I'm just really interested in your view as a CISO. Thank you. And thank you for a very fascinating presentation. I enjoyed it.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks for your comments and your question. Social emotional learning, we talk so much about, there's a couple of initiatives like the whole human cyber initiative, where we want to make sure people are technical, but they're also kind of aware of things. And that's where I talk about like some of these professional skills, what we call the soft skills, right? What's our interrelational skills between with other people, right? How do we learn new things? I think there's a lot of overlap there between like neurodiversity almost and some of those concepts also that are becoming buzzwords, but are also real things to think about. So I think we still have a way to go to be really good at that stuff. But there's always been this kind of stigma about, you know, people in tech are maybe not great with people, or they're just brilliant technologists or savants in that space, but not great at some of these other things. I think the beauty is that cyber is not just a technical discipline, right? There are plenty of people who are in management, leadership, in journalism, recruiting, that are more non-technical type roles. I think you'll find those people are a little bit better, but then they're missing the technical skills sometimes. So this idea of being a holistic cyber practitioner is super fascinating to me. And as for your question, I think we're making progress, but we're a ways away from that, where we should be, where we want to be.
Thank you for sharing. And I've known and worked a lot with IT and cybersecurity professionals, and they are very people as well. So it's kind
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. It's time to put those stigmas away and those taboo, those stereotypes away.
Exactly.
Thanks for your question, Nadia. I appreciate that. All the way from Brussels, you said?
Yes, I live in Brussels. Yeah, so it's.
Thank you for joining us for this.
Yeah, I'm going to put.
Sorry.
I'm going to put offspring to bed, and then I'm going to prepare for my presentation.
Amazing. Take care. Josh, do you have a question?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome. First of all, I'd like to say thanks for the presentation. I learned a lot of info and everything. My question to you is, so my background is more in automotive. I was a BMW technician apprentice for a little bit. And when I was going through, it was like to get one of your certs. I can't think of what the program was that I went through, but one of the gentlemen there, he had a guy that knew how to like automotive hacking, vehicles and things like that. So I was wondering if you knew a little bit about that, how to get, more training with that. Cause I know it's kind of like a hush hush thing, since it's, kind of like a R&D thing. They don't want, information to get out to the public,
Yeah, for sure. I really like that question, because I just had a pretty extensive conversation with a buddy of mine who is a brilliant person with everything cars. Like, he's my go-to for anything that comes up car related. He's my first call. And he's expressed the same interest to me recently. So I'm going to make the same recommendations I did to him. One is thinking about there's a certification now and a training program for electric vehicle technicians, right? Which is something very interesting to think about, because that course is going to give you repair and knowledge. I don't know where you are automotively, where your skills are, but that course is going to give you a lot of kind of structural information about how electric vehicles work and what smart cars entail. The other thing I would recommend too is a link in the chat. This is Automotive Linux, right? So Linux Foundation has created I believe it's Linux Foundation directly. They've created a version of Linux specifically for cars, right? So it's an operating system, it's a Linux distribution, and a Linux distribution that works, that a lot of smart cars are going to run on, right? So I would really focus there. I think there's going to be huge demand for that as we get more and more smart vehicles in roads, and we get more and more electric vehicles, smart vehicles out there. I think that's the way to go. So Linux, Automotive Linux, and then the EV tech is going to be super valuable for you. I think that combination is going to set you up for some great foundations. And then obviously then figure out what direction you want to go in with that, even within subcategories that are subfields. So think about where you want to go with that. There are people pen testing cars. I have friends who do that for a living. Happy to put you in touch with some folks if you like afterwards.
Nice, I appreciate it. We'll connect on LinkedIn.
Yeah, for sure, Josh.
Thank you much.
Take care.
Yeah, definitely be wary though, right? So look at your user manual. They have a cybersecurity section, and it will say, absolutely, if you do X, Y, Z, you break your warranty, and you can end up breaking your your infotainment center.
It's true. Don't avoid your warranties. I'm not responsible for that. Just
Another good place to get some good training when it comes to up things, because a car is a critical infrastructure. CISA VLP has a lot of ICS training for free, and they have a 201V and a 301V that gives you a hands-on with a range where you get to learn the passive techniques that we do pen tests with on critical infrastructure. I can't go out there and run a standard ARP poison on a critical infrastructure network or a car, because we're talking about stuff that is written in probably like 56K of RAM. So imagine an ARP poison that's pushing out, 128. You're causing it to reboot. You're causing it to fail.
Absolutely. Thanks for chiming in, Paul. That's super helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
And Jeff, you're on a hook still, brother.
Yes. We didn't forget about you, Jeff.
I was hoping you'd forget about me. Okay, no problem. Let me get my video back up. Buffering again. Okay, I'll just keep talking. Okay, so I didn't. One second, sorry. Technology.
No worries.
There we go. Okay, so I didn't prepare anything, obviously, but let's say I'll be talking about a couple of roles that I'm interested in are, things in the field of threat intelligence, OSINT, and social engineering, which of course all revolves around anything from red team to purple team to whatever, to blue team, more purple and red, I'm guessing. But okay, so I'm a recent graduate of the whole Cyber Human Initiative pipeline. I have transitioned into cyber after a career of several decades in the field of healthcare and therapy. I have extensive experience in research as well as old school OSINT, before all the automated tools were out. And, I'm looking to leverage that into a threat intelligence role, into a role of an OSINT investigator, where I can then, use my experience in helping people, serving people, protecting people, and basically for the greater good of whether it's business or the country or individuals. Yeah. So yeah, I was also a soldier and spent time in law enforcement on the federal level overseas. So I'm good with diverse cultures. I'm multilingual, and according to my mother, I'm pretty nice. Just don't ask Paul. So again, I've never really worked on an elevator pitch, particularly for cyber. And this is obviously off the 90-second. But since, I've learned over the last couple of years that cyber is a lot more than one thing or two things. It's very vast, because I was more interested in the, pen testing and of course red teaming, because I've done social engineering all my life, but not lying to people per se, but getting them to do things that were for their benefit. Mostly other things, not really for the camera, but that's a past life. but so that's what was interesting to me. But obviously now I know there's much more to it, and you know, I've gone through a lot of training. I've been good at some things and challenged by many others, and you know, being an expert in one field, well, quote unquote expert, and starting from the beginning now, you know, it's very humbling, which is what I like, because I like to learn stuff. But you know, you're stuck because how do you put your whole self into, you know, 90 seconds when most people are going to stop listening to you after the first 20 seconds, you know? So, but yeah, so I need to work on my elevator pitch, obviously, because I don't go into many elevators. So for that reason, I take the stairs.
I like that, Jeff. I like that a lot, actually. So I think you've touched on a lot of things. We, you know, obviously trying to keep that succinct is always a challenge, right? I struggle with that myself. I would kind of, and it looked like you had some notes maybe, but I would just kind of write that down. And I'm not opposed to that. Write that down and memorize that, right? There was a lot of things, and these elevator pitches, yes, you have a template for it, but also you want to customize these every time you're talking to somebody else, right? Because some of those things, there are certain organizations that are going to say they're going to have a lot of respect for your military background and say, okay, we understand, we have an understanding of what your kind of core values are, what kind of background you come from. So figuring out how to have a template for that ready to go. You injected some humor in there. I like that a lot. I'm just a total sucker for humor. Anytime someone can demonstrate wit and humor in something, I tend to remember that person for much longer. That's just, and I think a lot of people operate that way. If you make me laugh, I'm gonna remember that. That's an emotion that you elicited in me, right? It doesn't have to be fear or happiness or excitement, just fun. It was just fun. It was a fun conversation you and I had. I would try to lean hard into that strength that you clearly have of your humor and inject that into places strategically where it has value. And then again, just keep that succinct. I think you touched on a lot of things in your background, and they were all very relevant. And I would say just write it, maybe 100 words, 150 words on paper is probably going to be the right amount of time.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Other than that, I think you're off to a great start.
No, thank you. Usually I make people cry, but I do appreciate that.
No, we don't want that. We don't want the crying.
No, just maybe one tear. It's okay.
Love it. Love it.
Thanks
Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate you doing that.
I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, how are we doing on time? I'm going to let you moderate and decide. We have time
We got
for
7 minutes till the next speaker. We can either take
Okay.
a long break, or people can still come on video and chat it up. Let's chew the fat and break some bread.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm happy to chat whatever's relevant and interesting or fun for you all. I'm seeing some people follow this advice already. I love it. I am on LinkedIn. Notifications are coming in. People are posting things. I like to see them. What else we got? It doesn't have to be a question. If you have a thought that's on your head and you just want to get it out, we are here for it.
Well, let's talk about, let's revisit one of the topics you mentioned, right? When we talk about entry level. Obviously, we all know the definition is at the basic level, 0 to 9 years or 0 to 9 month experience per 3 different definitions from 3 different dictionaries.
Yeah.
You got to look at it as there's roles that are entry level. They're just not going to be technical. Cyber sales is absolutely an entry level position. And in cyber sales, I would say if you're looking at a role like that, you need to look for a company that you push the I believe button on, right? Because you can make copious amounts of dollars, far more than what I was making as a cyber researcher doing sales. It's about believing in that product. Then the project management, program management, there's so many different variables at play that you don't have to be 100% technical on. So don't just look at LinkedIn about, XYZ entry level position, because there's roles out there that are non-traditional.
Absolutely. It's not just about tech, right? Cyber security is such a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary field. So there's room for whatever you've done before. Bring those skills over. We need them. chat here. You can respond here. Some people have dropped their LinkedIn chat. Feel free to connect with each other too, right? In case you don't know each other, this is where your network starts. And we've got people, it looks like, from all different levels in their career. So definitely connect with each other also.
All right, and I'll take it as nobody else has any questions, so I'll stop recording and get primed for our next speaker.
Thank you.